I'll start it, but this might be dangerous. All right, this is the 90-minute film I was talking about, Rick Springfield documentary, for any Rick Springfield fans in here. So what I want to do is I want to, let's say the client doesn't have an XML to give me. All they can do, they don't even, like the editor doesn't even know how to get me a CMX 3600, and you can't even explain it to them because they just don't get it, right? So your next step at that point is, all right, turn off all your graphics, turn off all your lower thirds and subtitles, and render me out a flat movie. So there's render out a 90-minute QuickTime. And what you can do is right-click on that QuickTime and go to Scene Cut Detection. That loads me into this menu here, the scene detection, the scene menu. I can turn auto cue on so it kind of keeps me up with what it's doing. Click scene detection. And it's now going to play through the clip, in theory. There it goes. So it's playing through the clip, and this obviously they didn't get rid of the lower thirds. And it's going to look for changes, big changes in the luminance values, and add cuts where it thinks there are cuts. Let's see what it does on this. This opening shot's really long, and then we get into a quick montage. And it's dragging. Part of the reason it's dragging is the FireWire 800. I mean, this thing's really heating up right now. So responsiveness on your system is dictated by a couple things. It's not just the CPU, but that plays into it. It's not just the RAM, but that plays into it. It's not just the GPU, that definitely plays into it. It's also your subsystem, your hardware subsystem, the speed of your hard drive. What's it doing? That's what has a huge effect on the responsiveness of your system. Now, you'll notice you've got 3 windows. Those are to give you feedback as to whether or not it accurately found a cut. Ideally, the window on the left is the end of one shot. The middle window is the beginning of the next shot, and then the window after that is the next frame that follows. So on every cut that it's properly identified, you should have one window, a different shot, and then the same shot 1 frame later. That's what it should look like. And that's your quick visual feedback as you toggle through to see if it's doing it right. Now let's stop it. All right, so it's come through, and I can go, and if I scroll up here, and I think it's Shift N. Yeah, Shift N takes me through each edit. Now that's not right. These are definitely not right. I can prune all of that. All right, so it found an edit here, previous, next. That is correct. I mean, I just know that because I know the show. And I can zoom in so you can see on a really long timeline. I can zoom in. So you think it's telling you in this bar, its confidence level. It says, yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence that these are actually edits. Whereas up here, it's telling you the higher you get to the top, the more confident it is. All right, where are we in this timeline? There we are. Oop. All right, so if I go Command Previous, all right, that's what it thinks is an edit. Command Next thinks that's an edit. Now, if I go here, clearly this isn't an edit. So one thing I can do is lift the confidence bar up and say, yeah, nope, I don't think so. Now, if I go Previous, Next, it's skipping over it. Previous, Next, it just skipped over that. Hit the next one that it thinks is right. Hit Next. All right, that's right. We're going from a close-up to a medium shot. And then this looks like a 1-frame edit. Yeah, welcome to documentary film editing in the MTV age. All right. It's actually, what he did is a wipe. He has a special wipe filter that he did that does, it's like 1-frame wipes that go across. So it's confusing this guy for good reason. It confused me. I had to look at it 3 times before I realized he meant to do it. Now I can come in here and let's say, I've got all this crud in here, and you can set in and out points. You can, and then prune them all out. You can clean it up. You can physically, as you go next and previous, if I decide that, next. So if I decide that this one is not an edit, I can go delete. It's gone. All right. And you can go through the entire film this way. You can clean it all up. And when you're done, now here's the thing, because it's one long clip. So in theory, if you were to just load that up into Resolve and grade it, you'd be grading the entire feature with one single grade. So what it needs to do is, and the media pool, it's actually one clip. I mean, you're referencing back. We talked about the master session, and it's a string out. Well, there is no real string out. It's one long thing. So what it does is it takes all these scene edits, turns them into cuts, creates an EDL, drops it into, creates a session, and now it treats every single edit as its own individual shot. And then you can grade shot by shot. So if I go down here to split, and it's asking me if these parameters are okay, frame rate, drop frame, things like that. Click OK. All right, now it's just taken this clip, and now you can see it's added these edits in as it's all coming from the same clip. All right, this is the clip name. But it's added each shot as if it were an individual shot. It's faking itself out. And then I can come in here in the master session, and once I get past this stuff that we were grading, all right, it's now treating each of these shots as individual clips. If I go into the color room, all right, now you can see that I've got these individual shots here to grade. All right, and you can see there's also a reference up here. See if I can zoom out. This reference up top is a little confusing. I'm always going the wrong way on it. The interface is a little confusing. Come on, there we go. All right, so you can see a bunch of tiny edits up front here. And if I go the other way, zoom in, and then click on a shot. Let's take this. Where are you? Here's the bar. There we go. And so I can navigate. This also can be a navigational tool. This is one reason why on a 90-minute film you might want to break it up into smaller reels. Is simply that all these, these one-frame edits, it's tough to use this as a navigational tool in here. All right, but then we can start grading. Now the one thing is, and I'll show that to you right about now when we import the other project, grade linking is another powerful feature of Resolve. In other words, if you have 2 shots coming off the same reel, it remembers that, and it'll tell you that. Well, there's no grade linking here. You can group, so I could selectively go through and I could take this guy and I could take this shot, and I can right-click and I can add into a new group. And I'll just call this Rick CU. And now they got red outlines around them. And then anything I do to this shot, in theory, if it weren't so tired right now. Come on, baby. Work with me. Is going to happen to this shot. All right, so you see this luminance change I did here. I take it, drop it down. It matches up here. And you'll see because they're linked, you can actually see in the timeline, you can see that the timeline is also going to show you, give you a visual indication of what the final shot looks like. All right. Yes?
So what is actually linked? Is it a specific node within each graph that gets linked?
No, it's the entire grade. Yeah. So if I were to go here and add a couple more nodes, if I go then to this shot, the nodes are added. They're grouped right now, so they're grouped together. There are some grouping options that allow you to decide, where is it? They give you some different ways. I'm not seeing it right now. There are some grouping options that, yeah, here it is. So I select the group, change the ripple. So it says that there's, it says, you know, if I select change ripple here, absolute, relative, static, I have trouble distinguishing the nuances between the three of these, and I get it wrong most of the time, so I've kind of stopped trying to figure it all out. Being that, like, I look at the manual and it kind of tells me what absolute's supposed to do and relative's supposed to do, but it doesn't always seem to honor that, and so it confuses the hell out of me. So I tend not to do a lot of grouping. And once I've done all these changes, you know, I could sit here and group them together, and then maybe make some base changes to them, and then I can ungroup them, and then make individual changes to each. And they'll retain the initial change. So I can delete this group now. Yep, clear the group. And now they're cleared, but they share the same grade when I did the grouping. Some guys I know will use grouping that way, where they might group these shots to get the base going if they're not linked, and then ungroup them to get, you know, to do a window mask that tracks to their face as they're talking. And then, but if you do that while they're grouped, then every time you track, it ripples through the entire thing. Any change you might make as they drop in and out of the light will then ripple across to everyone. So you ungroup them so you can do individual controls on them. Yes?
Are you saying we can't do like a per clip override?
Well, you can by ungrouping them. Yeah, there's no way to have them in a group and say only make this change. Technically, yeah, there's no way to do that in a group. Yeah.
Then the producer comes in as soon as you ungroup them, of course.
And then they want to change everything. Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah.
So if, let's say I have a scene with a couple of shots, and I grade each shot the way I like it, and then I want to change like the overall look of the whole scene. Is there a way to do that?
Well, what you could do is, let's go to our power grades. And let's say I wanted to go from here to here and drop a sky key. And let's see what happens. That's not the way to do it. Let's try it again. Let's go from there.
Append to all those nodes?
Yeah, I could actually. So I could do that and then say append node graph. And then it still doesn't follow through. And what you might have to do is just group them together and then append that. See, but that's going to write it across and copy them all across. There's a way to do that, but I can't remember how it is right now. Undo. Let me think about this one more second.
Did you make a color correction for that layer? Basically like timeline that you have?
Well, you know, there is this track, but the track affects the entire session, not just a sub thing. So for instance, if I had some sort of LUT or something that I used to legalize, I could lay that to the track and it'll get applied to the entire project, but I can't say start here and end there and then have a different one elsewhere. So it doesn't really work if per scene basis unless you're grading and have a session per scene, which you never do. You know, the way I would handle that, now in 8.1, there's going to be copying and pasting of grades. Depending on how they implement that, that might be a solution for you. The other way is to just, you know, go shot by shot, and what you can do is you can display the node graph here, set it up there, and then as you go shot by shot, you can just drag it and do that. I mean, that's one possibility. I'm pretty sure what you're asking for is possible. It's just not clicking with me right now. Yeah.
If you could group like a single node, that would probably allow you to do it.
Well, what you do is you'd want to apply, let's say, to these 4 shots, right? And then you would add these into a new group and brick. And then you could then take your sky key and apply it to 1 and get it to everyone else. Apply it to 1. And now it's getting applied to everyone else. The problem is they're all going to interpret the same grade the moment you do that. Now, that might be a case, now this might be because I don't use this feature very much. It might be the case where you would come into the group that it's a part of. RIC group here. And if you change the value to relative, that might then allow me to take this, drop it there without copying those 4 nodes across to everything. Yeah, tough to tell. Let's add this desat shadows now. Let's take that, add it there. Yeah, went off the screen, and now let's see what happens here. Yeah, it did, but if I ungroup this, let's put this back in the default group. Right. And then I take this guy here. Let's go to the 3-way. And do that to him. And then now let's load up the RIC group again. I did that on the first node. So that didn't take it. Now let's come to him and let's add the blonde fix. And I guess I'm gonna have to make this smaller, aren't I?
Give you a 10-minute warning.
Wow, all right. Yeah, okay, the blonde fix was applied, but it didn't overwrite based on the settings of this guy because I'd set it to relative. So yeah. So it said it took the base and then said anything I'm doing now, keep it, but just change what I'm changing, which is how I would think relative would work. And it worked this time. It doesn't always happen that way for me. But. All right, questions before I load up this other job? Let me take a quick look at it. All right, so let's go into the conform window. Let's go into the config. I'm going to create a quick new job. Let's call this, let's save this. Copy a default, great. All right, so this new one will be intense. And I'm going to come into the conform, and I'm not going to set any settings for it. I'm just going to say load. And on the desktop is this XML we created very early on. Intense start. Open. Give me a couple dialog boxes. It's asking me to set some basic settings. Mostly, there's also a rename option. So it'll name the session the XML name, but I can change it if I want to. And I'm going to leave all the settings. I'm going to say OK. And now it's telling me where's it coming from. It knows the drives that it's supposed to look at, but I got to tell it specifically what folder it's coming from. And so I know it's in demo assets, media, master class. Click OK. Now it looks like it's doing nothing, but in a moment the spin ball will there it goes. The beach ball will spin. And now it's parsing the XML. It's looking at where it is on the drive, trying to find them. It's importing the conform options and the project settings from the XML that Final Cut spit out, adding it all into the media pool, creating a master session, and then giving me a bunch of warnings about stuff that's missing. Luckily, it found 234 of 240 clips, and we're going to call that close enough. All right. Some of the stuff it missed are graphics. So on Reel 3 here are graphics that have their animation with alpha channels, which Resolve does not recognize. I need to create those as ProRes or something else. It doesn't recognize alpha channels natively, so I'd have to also create an external mat, import that, apply that, and then I can get my keys. I'm not going to show that to you right now. It takes a little bit. But you can see that I've got my entire timeline here. Interesting, one of the things it's having trouble with, if you go through the timeline here, now this is a session. So this is the timeline that we pulled out of Final Cut. Zoom in. See this C? Now this C means there's a conflict. It's saying I'm finding multiple shots at this time code number with this reel number with this time code number. If you click on the C, right click on the C, it's giving you options. What shot belongs there? All right, and then I can tell it I want that shot there. If the producer later comes in and says, no, it was the other angle, you've got the wrong shot. If you listen to the audio, you know what you fool. You can come back in here and it should give me an R to say that it was resolved. Or no, it says something else. There is a way usually to fix that, to go back and say, no, I want to change that conflict setting and I want to use a different shot that you didn't present to me. I don't know why it's missing right now. All right. Now you can see I've got two timelines here. And what did it do? It also created a master session for me. So, and this used to freak me out. Like, what the heck? Why am I getting a master session when the only thing I want is this, the actual timeline? All right. And let's do a quick experiment now. And this is a point I'd like you guys to walk away with. So let's go to the very first. Let's go here. All right, and let's see if this is working. It is. Okay. So we'll just do that. All right, I've got a grade on her, and this is all for illustrative purposes. And I come to her, and I can middle click to grab this grade. And I come back here. Let's go to her, middle click and grab the grade. And do we have the opening shots as well? I've got this shot here. Now I'm not seeing it at the moment because I've got another track on top. It's kind of screwed up. Resolve is linking to the wrong shot on layer 3, and I want to see layer 1. So I think if I click unmix, the unmix mode gets rid of any dissolves, wipes, anything it's showing you. If there's, if let's say you're in a series of really quick shots, they're quick, 4-frame dissolves in between them, and the dissolves are screwing you up. You want to see the grade from beginning to end. You just throw into unmix mode, and it gets rid of all the compositing, and it's just showing you that layer without any dissolves, without any wipes, nothing. You can throw it into loop, and then you can play down that. I've had that happen a couple times on these quick little montages, and then it'll just loop through. And let's do a quick fix here. And kick up some saturation. All right. And I'm hoping, I'm just now realizing I might not brought along the one XML that I wanted to bring. Let's see if I load this up. And go here. Cut down, beautiful. All right, so I have another XML that's a cut down of this sequence. So I'm going to load that up. Say OK. I have to tell it where my footage is. I could just say demo assets, but I have so much footage on here, it'll take us 15 minutes just for it to go, because it's going to go through all the subfolders, it's going to identify all the shots, it's going to pull up all the metadata on them, it's going to take forever. So you rarely want to do it at the top level. You really want to go just the level above or just the level at where all your media exists. And let's do that. So it's now going to parse it. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Any other questions while we're waiting for this? Okay, here we go. Now I've just, yes. Yes.
Two questions regarding LUTs.
LUTs, yes.
Question, what type of format the LUTs you're generating for onset levers?
I can't answer that question.
Second question.
Yeah.
Do you have any preset LUTs from scratch you can...
Yes, it ships with a bunch of LUTs. In fact, I can show them to you right this moment. Let's reset.
1D or 3D LUTs?
Both 1D and 3D LUTs. It accepts a whole bunch of different LUT formats. 1D, 3D, and I believe it exports a couple different, not as many as it imports, but there are a couple different formats. You'd have to look at the documentation exactly. I'm not a LUTs guy. I'm kind of more of an HD guy.
XML format import LUT?
I don't know. Can't answer that question for you. Let's see. Original size. Yeah, if I right-click on this, there's a whole LUT thing here. And what I'm showing you right here are the LUTs that ship with it. 1D. Oh yeah, here's my Alexa Log C. Rec 709 LUT.
Yes, in his face. Built-in.
Yep.
Is it built-in?
Yep. I didn't do it. There's just part of the default install.
Okay.
All right. And then if you have an external LUT, you can go to your project settings. You have your own custom LUT. And in the config page, there are a whole bunch of options to load them up. Okay. Now, I pulled in this, this cut down, and it's a cut down of the big 16-minute project. I graded the first shot, and you can see, if you look at this little colorful thing, that means it's already graded. And if I were to go to this and turn it on and off, all right, where did this grade come from? Well, it came because I graded it already on the film. And if you notice, if I right-click, I've got here this notion of local versions and remote versions, and this is what I want to wrap up with today. Local versions versus remote versions. This session is remotely grading the master session. So if I were to come in here on this shot, and let's say we're going to introduce a blue bias. And in the midtones too. All right, I've made a change on this. I come back to my Conform tab, I select the actual film, go back to the first shot, it's now pulled in my blue bias. If I look at it, I right-click on it, you see version 1 of the remote version is what's loaded up. Let's create a new version. All right, so let's create a new version, a remote version. It's now version 2. I'm going to base memory reset all. What this would do if I had multiple nodes, it wouldn't delete those nodes, it would just reset them all. All right, as opposed to base mem reset all is literally getting you back into this state with just one node. All right, now we're going to take this and we're going to go the opposite direction with this. All right, now let's go back to the Conform tab. Let's go back to our cut down. Now our cut down, you notice, is still blue, but it says version 1. It recognizes that all of a sudden we've got a new version in there. Therefore now, you notice these don't say version 1 because there is no version 2. So it doesn't start saying version 1 until you've got a version 2 to look at. If I right click, there's version 2, I load it up, and now I'm looking at our red push. What's happening is they're both going back, and if I come in here and I look at this, highlight this first shot in my cut down, right click and I say locate in master session. Well, it found it in the master session. It's 1 minute and 15 seconds into the master session, which is just a random string out. It's not in any kind of EDL order, right? If I go to this, and I can color grade this master session. The whole first part of this demo, we were working in a master session. And you'll see that, sorry, let's highlight the master session here. Now we're going to go into the master session. I right click. There are no remote versions of a master session. The master session is always local. So when you're working remotely, you're grading this. You are remotely grading the master session. All right? The master session doesn't remote do anything. It is what it is. And so when you load up another EDL that references that same shot that's already been graded in another session, it says, oh wow, we're using the same shot, let's pull the same grading data. And you'll notice it also has version 1 and version 2. I can add version 3 in here, and then all of those shots that are linked will now have version 3, and I can, if I make a change in version 2, and now in version 2, let's go green, let's reset, and let's go green. And now I come back to my film and look at this first shot. Version 2 is now a green version, but I can still load up version 1. Now, if I go to the cut down, I think we're getting near it here. Go to the cut down. It's still living in version 2, which we changed green, which was red. All right. But we decide, let's kick this back to version 1. This matches the film. All right. Let's say we decide that this cut down is going to look unlike anything, any other version we're going to have, right? It's a cut down, it's a promo. So what do I want to do? I come into here and I say batch on link. And now that I've unlinked it, I'm now in a local version. You notice local version 1 is checkmarked, not any of the remote versions. And then I can come up in here, let's go with our warm version of it. Better yet, let's go with the black and white version, right? So we're going to go with a black and white version of this. And if I go into the film, and I right click, if I load up local version 1, it's not the same as local version 1 in the session. All right, it's its own independent local version. All right, it lives independently. So each session can have its own grade that no other session will reference, or they can share the same grades. And if I go further down in this film, I'm not sure on this version. I'm trying to show you grade linking. I thought I had a couple shots in here. I think when I created this timeline, I ended up media managing out some of the shot linking. But in theory, if these two shots were off the same grade, the same source file, they would have a little red bar that showed up in here on both of these shots. You click on one or the other of them and you'd see red bars. Those all share the same grade. So if it's coming from the same piece of media, the same contiguous piece of media, it's going to say anything that references off any part of that, well, it probably has the same grade. So I'm just going to automatically marry all of these things together. And it does that. So that's how, on a 1,600 shot documentary, I get to the last 20 minutes. It's 400 shots more than I thought. I get to the last 400 shots. Half of my shots are already graded because I've already done all the interview stuff and they're doing a wrap-up at the end, right? So now I've got all of these grades in there that are already populated, 90 minutes down the road because they all came from this one long interview piece. Yep.